Welcome to the DGTL Growth Podcast, where marketing leaders turn playbooks into pipeline. I'm Suse Barnes. Today, we're diving into digital marketing and branding, web development, and lead gen from a B2B marketing company, VisualFizz, with managing partner Dan Salganik.
Yeah, really excited to be here. I really appreciate it.
Yes, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining here. Tell us a bit about VisualFizz and your journey and vision as managing partner.
The journey. We are just about to hit 9 years in business, which is quite interesting. You know, we've changed exponentially over those 9 years, both with who we are, what we're focused on, the team, everything. What started out as kind of a concept after actually being laid off at previous agency where they had a rather large layoff due to lost clients. My co-founder and I wanted to start a bit of a different agency. We've been remote friendly and remote first since the beginning, pre-COVID. We actually launched as an experiential marketing agency, which I'm glad we had pivoted pretty early in our careers here. COVID would have been pretty challenging. And now we are about 20-25 person team. We are focused predominantly in the technology and industrial spaces. Industrial for us, meaning industrial manufacturing, construction, and logistics. We kind of put it all under one umbrella. And we have a full service team. That's been very important. One of the driving forces of our goals or my kind of mission in running the team is having a very senior level focused team. That's been very crucial in trying to find more efficiencies and opportunities to do work one time really well, which is ultimately why we've been remote friendly. It's like finding the best people we can. And it's been quite a journey. Yeah, really excited to just be where we're at, 9 years later and still in business.
And so it's going well and you see more of the same for the future. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's been going well, and ultimately, our model has always been very much like lean strategy growth style, right? We started the company, I always joke, with $50. We built a logo, found a template, did everything by hand. It was not, we were also some of the youngest founders in our space, especially back almost a decade ago, and we were driven by not having a lot of relationships to jumpstart the business. So it was always built on the brand and ultimately kind of organically defining who we are so that people can, trust us over time. And we have some pretty aggressive goals actually, because we've had good organic growth over year, but we really want to scale up. And over the past couple of years, we've further niched ourselves and verticalized ourselves into what I just stated, more and more every single year. So 5-6 years, we were an everything to everybody agency, and a 6 to 7.5 years, we were B2B focused. And now into our kind of going into 8.5-9 year, we are actually niching down even further and really focusing our efforts on just a couple of industries, which are, really correlated with one another and complement one another.
Wonderful. What was the shift to be more B2B? I'm curious.
About 5 years ago, we landed the client that basically jump-started who we are by allowing us to bring on our first full-timer. And then that kind of snowballed into another and another. And we've always been very methodical, but we realized for many years we were doing everything. And we had to reinvent the wheel here and learn about this industry. And so we realized that we're really good at B2B. It's very relationship driven, it's long term, and candidly, it's a little bit less reactive than the B2C market or the D2C market. And with that, we found that we can work with larger organizations that really understand kind of what it means to scale kind of effectively, but not exponentially. Many of our clients understand that this takes time. It's through rebrand and kind of growth and web development, and that's the style that we like versus a very reactive style. And over the years, we just kept on, I guess, winning or acquiring customers or clients that are in that space. And funny enough, it's not just B2B. Our true segmented audience, the ones that we really try to focus on, are what I call established B2B. That was a lot of planning and brainstorming on what's the right word, age-old, multi-generational, et cetera. but companies that are 30 to 150 years old in the B2B space, averaging about 60, 70 years old, we are very good at working with those types of companies.
Interesting. So you don't work with startups, obviously.
Not many. We do at times because, one of the things we try to focus on, and I love founders. I am a founder. It becomes very emotionally driven when
Mm-hmm.
you work with founder-led companies, and we try to make sure that all the decisions are truly business decisions. So over time, I think there's great founders that, just incredible. But our goal and my goal to be more of a sustainable long-term growth company with brands that can really kind of afford the opportunity to build larger campaigns. Um, the startups just became a little difficult as we started scaling up to focus on. And so we do have some, Series A funded, Series B, Series C funded startups, but would you call kind of a pre-seed or a seed round startup our target demographic? Probably not, just because I almost talk us out of the sale intentionally because I empathize with the founders to say maybe the agency isn't the right space for you right now because I know the value of a dollar when you have 50,000 versus when you've got 50 million,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, how many people do you have on your team?
We have a blended team. That's always been the case. When we started, we were just contract based, like probably many teams. Now when it's become so easy to kind of hire up, but we have 20 to 25 at any given time. About 10 full timers, and the rest being long term contractors. And so one of the important things for me is we have all the contract team members that we bring on work on VisualFizz related tasks before they ever hit client stuff. But many of the team members that we have, they've been with us, whether they're full time or they're contract, anywhere between 3 and 7, 8 years, which in the agency world is a very long time.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I'm a contractor too,
Mhm.
and I've been with one of my agencies for 11 years now, which is crazy.
That's
So.
amazing. Yeah, that's what I tell people right at the forefront of hiring. I say ultimately, I know that you can jump at any time. I get that. I'm a real person too. But at the end of the day, like we're looking for somebody that can see the agency go from 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 5, 5 to 20. And like those are the people that I want to bring on with me that are loyal. Like if you're loyal to me, I'm loyal to you. Part of why I wanted to build this contract full-time model was because, again, I mentioned earlier, I was a product of a layoff. And I never wanted to lay someone off due to economic or our own financial instability. We still haven't had to do that. It was really, if we ever had to lay someone off, it was due to performance. Very rarely does that happen as well. But that's been really important to me. And so I always see VisualFizz as kind of like the earth. We've got the ball and then we've got atmosphere. And I see us being able to kind of expand and retract as necessary. Based on, if we lose a client or we win a client or we need to, scale up for a month, scale down. I don't want my full-time team ever affected. And generally, same with contractors. I treat them really well. I pay them quickly. I'm generally oftentimes their largest client, so to speak. And so we do have a good symbiotic relationship on both ends.
It sounds like it for sure. And I've never heard of the Earth analogy with the atmosphere. I like that.
Thanks.
Being able to adapt. Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, any strategic changes or innovations you're leading right now or seeing as trends in the industry?
Good question. Oh man, I think of course the catch-all answer is going to be AI.
Yeah,
I almost want to not answer that way, but it is a big
exactly.
one. So I'll give you like that answer. Then as I'm speaking, I'm going to be thinking of another one because
Mm-hmm.
I do think that AI is a huge component of both the ups and downs of how agencies are structured and the services being offered and how clients are going to see things. And ultimately, because a lot of my clients are, and I don't want to say not sophisticated, that's absolutely not the right word, but from a digital perspective, they need a little bit of a hand to hold when it does come to putting AI or integrating AI into their digital marketing or general processes. And so my style is not to be super reactive to AI. I think that's great for a certain subset of demographic, especially when you are focused on startups and agencies that work with startups or Series A, B, C funded, where they're just trying to scale very quickly. AI is used in our day-to-day, but more as a tool to be more efficient and effective versus like a catch-all implementation tool. And so oftentimes I'm doing a lot of research on like how does AI and generative engine optimization and content and video and all that stuff, like how does it play into our day-to-day where the product we're offering our client isn't the final from an AI solution. And I'm very transparent when they come to me and I say, we can have you write, for content, for example, we could have you write the content, use AI. We can use AI and make sure it's SEO friendly, or we can write it custom. You tell me what you prefer. So I think that's a piece of it. But honestly, one of the things I'm dabbling with is like, and this is just me personally, I love web projects and the use of, like user experience on the web. And something that I've been thinking lately is websites really haven't changed a lot in the past 10 years, 8 years. Like we're looking at hero image, about us, call to action, social proof. And yes, there's a process that works, but I'm finding that there's very, very, I mean, look at every SaaS company out there and their website's exactly the same. There's so little innovation. If you go too design heavy, you're going to lose customers. If you go too, standardized, kind of boring, you're not going to gain kind of trust. But I think that the area that's prime for some innovation is actually more character in the web world, but coupled with good user experience and flow to get to the end goal, which is not always easy.
And I think, especially with innovation, AI is hard because it's looking at what's been done.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's not really forward thinking, and I think that's where the human context that we have is what's different, what's going to be unique
Hmm.
and interesting in that way.
Yeah.
It's a
I mean,
cool
I
thing.
was
We
working on
don't
a,
see enough of the horizontal scrolling.
I agree. Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. And I think with your comment on the AI, I'm definitely on board because I'm doing some internal ideation for VisualFizz is where probably a question you'll ask or kind of have asked is we're really diving now into that industrial and technology subset where we kind of started, but my team and I are developing a pretty lengthy 6 month campaign to really make VisualFizz the agency in industrial and manufacturing, et cetera. And I'm using AI for my own benefit to say, hey, make me a slogan, make me something catchy, witty, etc. And I've probably spent more time trying to use AI to my benefit to find that slogan, that catch-all, that like something that really resonates. And it's really bad. It's very cookie cutter cereal box like type of responses. And so um, I'm I'm trying to just actually, I'm gonna get away from it soon, kind of speaking in real time, because again, I spent probably a couple of hours trying to find the best solution, and none of it is resonating.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously depends on how you work with it, but
Hmm.
often I am hearing it's just a distraction. You know,
It can be.
it's
It
like
certainly
we
can be.
should be using it, but it's not really doing as much as we would like at this point.
Yeah, and it could hurt creativity. I think it's necessary, but sometimes you get so caught up in what AI is going to provide you, you realize you haven't really used your brain, besides to give it a prompt. You're micromanaging a computer, and so sometimes that also can, yeah, as I'm thinking again in real time, it's kind of hurting your creative output, which many of us, that's our asset, is our
Yes,
creativity. Then anybody can do the work that we do.
exactly. Yeah. Other shifts? Are you seeing other shifts in your space branding, web development, lead gen for B2B?
Yeah. Yeah, there are. One I talk about pretty frequently is kind of the growth in it's a challenging one actually for many companies like mine, and especially companies that are smaller than mine, I think, like just a smidge smaller, is that there has, because of the advent of AI and capabilities of translation and communication, one of the challenges that I think many are going to be facing in the space, everybody talks about jobs and this and that, and they're worried that AI is taking their jobs. And something that I kind of think, and this may be a little bit controversial, but I'll say it, is it's the international market that's probably going to be hurting a lot of us more than even AI. It's a
Hmm.
combination. because what AI has done is it's leveled a lot of the playing field for companies that, let's say, are maybe not as hands-on technical or capable of developing substantial campaigns, but maybe they're smaller and a little less sophisticated, but they're still agencies that are lifestyle companies, let's call it. Well, now you've got somebody who has half decent capabilities abroad, um, but has perfect English now and can use AI in the same way. And now the capacity of those individuals, which is much larger than our population, right? If you think about all of the other countries with capabilities, especially digitally, that is the largest competition that we have, in my opinion, more so than AI is a tool. It's a hammer. But the biggest thing is it's opened up the agency or any job, anybody, any offering world up to another 3-4 billion people. You know, that's an area that many people have to realize is it has to be considered. So anyway, that's a whole top conversation. But I've been talking the past couple podcasts I've been on. I've been talking about that because it's just interesting. We don't talk about it, but it's a lot more competition than there ever has been.
For sure. I think there's always been,
Hmm.
especially in B2B, I think it's more, well, certainly my experience has been more global, companies that are global, but I do think the translation piece was going to have a big impact for sure.
Hmm.
And I am, starting to just naturally be working with more people from different countries. And so it is going that way. And I think that, the benefit is coming back to the relationship again. It's like you
100%.
as the embedded person in the United States working with maybe a headquarters here, uh,
Hmm.
understand the culture, which
That's a
I
big
think is
one.
super important.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. That's another huge one that I've noticed over time. And it hasn't changed necessarily, but the relationship is more important than ever now. Running most of our clients again have been in B2B, not all, but I found that, and I spoke with a lot of companies, whether that's PR driven, whether that's my type of agency, that's something else, service driven, is pipelines have gotten longer. The sales pipeline is taking what used to be 3 months is now 6 to 9 or longer. There's a lot more kind of movement in role, who's in a role, who may not be the next day, and so on and so forth. And so I think what we have to do as agency owners and B2B leaders is anything possible to maintain and retain that relationship. Knowing about the person's family and being really friendly and inviting them out to dinner, and that's gotten harder because a lot of us have become a little bit more ancillary and want to stay at home, and that's okay, like nothing wrong with it. But back, maybe pre-COVID, there was a lot more interest to take up the opportunity to grab a drink or grab dinner.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
it's an interesting one because we on one hand want to have more relationships and more touch points and feel like we're close to our partners and vendors. But on the other hand, we kind of just want them to do the work and to
Yeah,
do a good
exactly.
job. And we don't want to really meet them. So as agency owners or any people that work in that kind of space, we have to marry up the two and see, like, get a sense of what our customers really want, and maybe not push too hard, but do a little bit of nudging along the way to make sure that you're not getting replaced or being forgotten.
Absolutely. It's sort of like, we talk about work-life balance. We also have to talk about, in-person versus remote balance, in terms of the,
100%.
the client relationships.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
What are your clients most interested in about your offering?
Good question. One of the offerings we get interest from quite frequently, or it kind of ends up moving this way, is this like 3-step process, which the first one is, and again, I mentioned a lot of my clients are older brands. It's either a rebrand, a brand uh, audit, so to speak, or something around the brand, branding capabilities, brand support, and I call this thing specifically responsible rebranding, responsible branding, to say, you're here right now, and we don't want to be, over here. Like it's huge. Like we're not doing this massive overhaul of your brand because you've been around for 6 decades. And so my goal is to take you from this approach to over here. And it's a small stepping stone of brand adjustment, so to speak, versus like a rebrand. And maybe that's a good word. But when I say responsible branding, it's really considering the history just as much as the future and marrying those together to make sure that when people, their customers, see the brand, it's still very much in the foresight of what the offerings have been. It's just simply a little bit updated to today's standards. So that's the first step. And then the second, because that depending on the client, that could be going well beyond a pretty picture of a logo and a brand guide. It's actually defining the internal capabilities and opportunities of the organization. So an example, without giving the client's name, is they've gone through a merger and acquisition 17 or so years ago, and never changed any of the branding around of the previously acquired organization. And so we came in to basically audit whether or not it makes sense to keep that or does not, or to not keep it. And then beyond that, how to reoffer the service offerings. And so under this became consulting. It's like Deloitte, because we ultimately not only went in from a brand perspective and marketing, but also sales and opportunity to say, okay, well, we're going to actually shift this. And not everybody was happy, but that's the way it is. We're going to shift this M&A into the organization and merge it within. Truly, from a brand perspective, we're actually going to cut at least one or two of your services out because they represent less than 5 or 8% of your revenue. One was 2%. Why sell it? And we're going to ultimately push the other ones up while cross-selling more. So there's a whole lot that goes in there that really isn't a marketing plan, but it's so important to dive a little deeper as a marketing agency to the meat of the client's organization and make those recommendations. So once we do that, then we develop the website for our clients because they've gone through this shift, and generally their websites are now 5 to 10 years old, and sometimes not built in the best technology or the best style, or maybe they're a little homemade. And so we have a very strong web capabilities team that we built, both really highly functional technical sites, but also SEO focused and visual, which is why I like hiring, if I ever live in the private world, an agency that's not a web dev agency, but a true marketing agency with highly functional web development experience, because you think about that whole user flow coupled with the brand audits that you've done. And then finally, at about 60, 70, sorry, it's a very long answer, but at the 50, 60, 70% portion of the web, then we get into marketing. Then we think about what do they need in early days of relaunching their site, the long term, et cetera, and then now I'm going for years ahead, ideally. Because when you relaunch a site, you do have a lot of newness happening. And so it's like a bit of a PR push. It's social media, it's SEO, making sure that everything is functioning properly, quality control, and then pushing funnels inbound and outbound kind of properly and proportionally. So there's a lot that goes into it, but that's been really popular for us. And many of our clients, especially in that mid-market, or, maybe mid-market's changed a lot, but let's say 200 million or 50 million to $1 billion, those customers, that's been really popular for them over the past couple of years. And I think something that we've built a little bit of name for ourselves from.
Super. I wonder if it's, the B2B marketing agency is sort of more of a internal, it becomes more of an internal arm, even if you are external, because B2B is all about the business. And you have to be forward thinking, you have to think strategy, you have to be sort of not so focused on what's going to sell something tomorrow. It's much more of a long-term play. And so you have to think through all of those arms and levers that you can pull to actually change the business, not just the marketing.
My hope is that my clients see us as a part of their team. We even have it on our website and our proposals. Think of us as an extension of your team. And though VisualFizz has changed so many times, and our slogans and our taglines, because we've evolved, that's something that really hasn't changed, and it still lives on the second piece of my website, so to speak. And really, I try to, and because I do the sales for the organization, I say, do not think of us as a vendor. Or I even tell people, we're not here for the short term. Like if you want to hire an agency that you think are gonna make you rich and get you promoted, and it's gonna be a 1-2 kind of like we're not here for that. It costs me more money in the first 60 days than you're paying me. So oftentimes I tell them, I'm here to build a 2, 3, 4, 5 year relationship minimum. I want to be part of your team. I want to be part of your sales calls. Like if we're not that, then you're not taking us seriously, especially when we're kind of on a more full service or multi-service relationship. If we don't have all the cards in front of us, none of us are going to look good. We're simply kind of spinning wheels. And I know that might be harsh. Obviously, it's not black and white, but one of those phrases, or it's two-way street, etc. Obviously cliche, but if the client's not invested in us, then we simply can't do enough to reciprocate back because we don't have the necessary tools to do so.
Yeah. In your business, what's working well for you right now, and what's been frustrating, or what maybe is frustrating?
Those are great questions. Very inward thinking. I've been doing a lot of that lately. I think that recently people are starting to acknowledge, well, it goes on and in and out, but I think people are acknowledging the quality that we provide a lot of our customers when they start working with us. For the size that we're at, we are not oftentimes the cheapest agency of the list of agencies that they've reached out to. We're not crazy expensive either by any means, but I make sure that I don't win on price. And clients that understand and respect that, we need 10 hours, 15 hours per person per service, and the US for 4 services, it's going to cost money. And so oftentimes the ones that understand that it takes an investment to get an ROI from that investment, they have found that working with VisualFizz is oftentimes different than what it's looked like for their previous agency engagements. Oftentimes, it might even be a very small number, small difference in the cost, but they'll go for cheap. And you don't want to go for cheap. You're just going to pay for it twice. I'm not saying that we are the catch-all best agency that exists, but I think, again, when I go back and think about what sets us apart, it's that we have clients that are maybe grandfathered in, not large organizations, and we have clients that are $3 billion, $5 billion a year. Everybody's heard of them, or at least in industry leaders. And the team that's working on I'm just going to make a random number up, the $3 million mom and pop business that we've been working on for 3 years, and the $500 million construction company, or the $4 billion, that's the same team. Those are still people that have been doing this for so long. So I think the thing that's working, and I talk about this a lot, is hiring people who are really passionate about their jobs and really good at them. And then you get a diamond in the rough agency. And I've heard that from heads of pretty large organizations, like, wow, I did not expect that. The thing that's hurting us, almost exactly complementary to that, is from a sales perspective. I'm very forward. I price us accordingly. And it's sometimes hard when you have so much competition to win as much as I'd like to. So I sometimes actually feel bad for my team. I'm like, I'm working on getting you those big clients, the ones that really are impactful, the ones that make your work impactful. There's 100,000 competitors just in the United States, right? Something like that, at least, or maybe, I don't know, tens of thousands. I know hundreds of agency owners. And so that's a challenge. How do you go against the others? And so that's ultimately something that my team and I are working on right now. And I'm very involved with them in this industrial and tech kind of subset verticals to develop, so that instead of shooting for this and this and this and this, we'll still take those clients. We'll talk to them. Of course, we're a business, but who we're focused on are going to be very particular. And my hope is that our challenge over the past year, which is maybe we're getting our hand in too many cookie jars, is we're going to be hyper focused on just the right cookie jar, just to attract the right client every single time. So yeah, winning new business that is ripe for kind of our team and what we want to achieve, that's been a major challenge, I think, in most agencies, but one for us, as we've had a lot of different narratives that we've written over the years.
Do you wait for prospects to come to you for pitching, or are you doing any like proactive reaching out to companies that you want to work with?
Yeah, we do a little bit of everything. So inbound has always been really important for Mara. And so we have a, generally a great looking and functioning website. And we have 70 to 80 case studies. We have 70 to 90 five-star reviews. The quality of the brand has to be there, when they see it. On the other end of it, the one thing I lack that actually was going to be one of your answers, questions to your answers to your question was going to be time. There's a huge lack of time, and I'm at fault here. I need to be a better delegator. I get very passionate about client work because it's where I came from, and so I dive in and I'm like, wait, I got to step out of here. Having the time to hire maybe an SDR person, an email person to help us with things like outbound, because I'm doing a lot of it. I should be involved, but that's been a challenge. But something that we're leading into with this whole kind of overhaul of VisualFizz in the next 6 months is putting more levers into place for me to be able to manage the sales process from 10,000 feet, 6,000 feet versus at 1,000 or 500. And then I'm hosting more events. I'm doing something where it's just a happy hour, which is not very unique. But I invite about 10 to 15 very specific folks to this event. I cover the cost of the drinks, which is not expensive, and it's a very targeted process. And my hope here is instead of bringing in which I used to do, 100 people to an event, and having 6 seconds to talk to each one, now I'm spending 2 to 3 hours between 10 people at a round table or a happy hour. They're covered on drinks. We're having a good time. And what I found the last time I held one, which is my next one's this week, is they kind of start talking about their relationship to VisualFizz, even though I didn't ask. And that's really cool because now VisualFizz is the conversation topic. And we can build on that, and so that's something I'm trying to do more of, is more involvement one-on-one or in small groups by moving myself out of the busy projects from the day-to-day and moving myself in front of people.
Do you find that you have to go to different cities, like where there are a certain number of potential clients, or are you staying where you are locally?
I live in Chicago, so there's no shortage of
Okay.
who we look for. Yeah, so I've rarely felt the need to go elsewhere for new business. I mean, we have clients across the country. Atlanta's weirdly a hub for us. We never pushed anything in Atlanta. And then when I was traveling cross country for my own sake, having fun. I stopped in a couple of cities to meet up with clients, and I was incredibly busy in Atlanta just by happenstance. But Chicago's quite large. I think I would candidly be doing myself a disservice by diluting our brand appeal here in the city, being the third largest city. But from an economic standpoint, I don't know where we're at, so I don't want to speak to that. But we have well above. A good agency needs 20, 30 clients. If I could bring in a couple each month that are from Chicago, I'm doing my job. National, great. If they're international, fine, that's great. So short answer is no. I generally don't, but I'm always happy to take an excuse to travel.
Exactly. Which metrics are you most focused on improving?
For my clients or for us as an agency?
For your business.
For business. I'd love to, I mean, this is kind of an obvious one, but the conversion rate of visitors on my site, I can see into a lot of the data of our website, and I know qualified people land on it, but I don't see them always converting. They're on non-converting pages like blogs that need to be improved. They're sometimes on case studies, which are conversion heavy, but still not enough. So I always question what's happening there. And then the time to close. Those are two big ones. The other KPI that I'm looking to focus on, there's two. One is attrition, which you'll probably say, hey, why is he looking to improve his attrition when he just said they're so client focused? Well, I think we're in an interesting time where there's a lot of movement in internal processes, and oftentimes the person who hired us is not the person that's paying the check or writing the check rather. And when there's a lack of involvement from senior leadership, or too much for that matter, you need the right amount, you start to have very emotion-based purchasing, or emotion-based firing. And I've seen this a lot, both with them removing our direct report, which is generally the director of marketing, and then there's a snowball effect, or senior leadership doesn't quite understand or get involved in marketing that as much as they should, which they should come to us and ask us questions. And there's this wall between us and the direct report and the person signing the check. And so that's a big one. So I want to find more opportunities for my agency to be a step above, again, as I mentioned earlier, like where agencies are, and understand the sales and meet the head of sales and meet the RO and the CMO and the CFO and CEO, and understand what their goals are, because they have I'll give you one quick side story. I have a great client. I'll keep it very general. They were a former client of mine. Great, perfect relationship with the director of marketing at the organization. We were with them for maybe a year and a half or so. Over the past year to trailing 12 months, or the year that we were working with them, their organic traffic, which was targeted because we had the numbers to qualify that it was targeted, it wasn't just random, was up 64% year over year. I mean, huge growth. But there were certain people in certain positions that felt like they weren't involved in the conversation. And without kind of my client, my client or my customer, the direct report, knowing about it, brought on an agency that was 3 times more expensive and said, oh, we're putting them to the same standards as they put on VisualFizz. And I said, well, if we are the standard, why are you paying 3 times more for another company? Well, they got sold to. And so the reason that hurts me is, one, it was a good client. I proved them right by saying this, we're a good agency for them. But there was a lack of internal communication to be able to talk that person down from hiring another agency. And that really hurts me and my team, because obviously now I'm down a client, and that's a salary worth of money.
Hmm.
And so attrition is very crucial for agencies. I'm trying to work on finding how to improve that. So there's a bunch of KPIs. Those are just a few. Time to close is another one. That's a very challenging one in this kind of economy, or like, somebody wants to do something, but people don't want to spend money. I'm trying to beef up or speed up the time to close for new business. So long answers. I apologize, but there's so
No,
much
no
that's
worries.
in my brain on any given time.
Do you have any spies or contacts in that company that left to take on the new agency that you could find out how they're actually doing? Because 64% sounds super good.
I know they're still there, and we talk to them regularly, and we're hoping that we can come back, because the other agency is on a kind of timeline. And so my hope is that it does come back to us, whether that's for what we were offering from SEO or for web, etc. But I always kind of say, like, hey, just keep us in the invoices for $200 a month, just something, because yeah, it's a shame. And candidly, some of my clients, when that's happened above them without their control, they're not very happy. That's happened a couple times this year. I've lost great clients due to a lack of kind of internal communication and a very good salesperson on the other end, fighting for my work, which I get. It's not the agency's fault. They're doing their job.
It sounds like your events, may help with that, because if you're able to, invite some of those people, C-suite execs, to those events, you have that personal connection then, and there may be less of the, oh, I'm going to look somewhere else because I don't know who this is that we're working with, kind of.
That's my hope.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm
yeah.
actually inviting like it's about 10 to 15 people. So about 1 to 3 of my previous or existing client relationships that were,
Hmm.
great relationships. A handful of people that I know that I just enjoy talking to, so to speak. They have positions that make sense for the conversation, and a
Hmm.
couple of prospects. And that way they can really kind of come together and say, oh yeah, VisualFizz built this beautiful website for us. And that's been working really well. Well, I guess I can't say yet that it's been working really well, but my last engagement did end up with us receiving a request for proposal for a new web build, which was pretty good size. So I'm hoping that this is an ongoing trend.
Yeah, so that comes through a good ROI right
Hopefully,
there, right?
yeah. Spend a couple $100 and get a proposal. So yeah, that's the goal. It's just I had a child this past year, and I had to be a little bit out of commission for a bit. Less events, only very specific ones, and I used to go to quite a few. And people do, for even if you're as active as you can be, if you're out of commission for 6 months, a year, people forget you. And you just got to be in front of people. And LinkedIn isn't enough. It's built by algorithms, and so that's what I realized. I've got to get, I love hanging out with my child and my family. I'm going to always do that. But I also have to make sure I'm in front of people because they'll forget about me, and me being the organization as a whole.
Where do you want to be in 6 to 12 months from now?
Good question. So at 6 to 12 months, my hope is that our campaign is in full swing, that we're launching in the next few weeks. And so my hope is I have created some goals through the campaign and some true KPIs to hit, more conversions, of course, through it. My conservative goal is that the organization hits 15 to 20% sales increase from the verticals that I'm focused on. That's the conservative goal. And then my kind of like, this would be great, I hope this happens goal is a 30 to 35% sales increase or revenue increase from the verticals and more brand awareness, et cetera, over the next 6 months, given we're investing in it. So beyond that, I'd like to grow my team. I would like to grow our capabilities, and I'd like to find more ways that we can stay really entrenched in our clients for longer term relationships. So there's just so many. We're also hoping to rebuild our website, which my developer is probably sick of me because we just started to, we just constantly on it, but I think it's time for us to evolve. So part of it is also evolving how we speak to customers. So there's 100 different things in my mind, but the biggest is we have to keep growing. There's company owners who are content with where they're at. I see if we had a small up year, what are we doing next year to make that larger? I know there's economic factors, but we're not big enough to have the challenges of $100 million companies and blame it on the economy. So I see that as an excuse for companies like mine. So I'd like to keep growing.
If you could solve one major challenge today, what would it be?
I think the biggest one would be finding the best use of time constantly, especially for me who always ruffles in his emails and maybe takes calls he shouldn't be on and other things. So for me to speak about it for myself, it's time management, which I think I'm okay at, but it's now not my own time as a whole, but it's actually my professional time, just really being focused. And as a team, it's creating more exciting, well-rounded campaigns for our clients, like really diving into the meat of it, letting our clients feel excited about this campaign we're going to put out, and then ultimately implementing it. We're seeing more of it, but I'd like to see, that being a core to the way that we run our business.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Can you share with our listeners, Dan, how to find you and how to contact you if needed?
Yeah, I appreciate it. My website's VisualFizz.com. You can also reach me through hello@VisualFizz.com or my LinkedIn. But I love chatting with individuals, getting to know them, being part of their team, helping out, even offering advice. So yeah, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd always try to do my best to be a resource or an asset.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. I learned quite a bit, and I'm really excited for your business.
Appreciate you having me on.
It was wonderful to have you. Thanks so much, Dan.
Awesome. Have a good one. Have a great week.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.